And we are live. This is Travis from Trade with Travis, your online Forex expert advisor that will end up helping you fight for your financial freedom throughout the overall Forex market. Thank you for being able to pop in. This is another evening episode of Trade with Travis. Inside of the comment section, or anybody else like that will end up watching this live, one, thank you for being able to pop in. We'll be here about 20 to 25 minutes being able to go over some trading opportunities that we end up taking earlier today. And then after that, some trading opportunities that may end up being in this session that we may end up taking a look at. I'm looking at one right now in US yen that looks pretty enticing, that very much interested in being able to get into as we've been trading this one to the upside for a while now. So I'm trying to see if we can be able to make a retracement move before the market actually ends up closing off tomorrow, before Thanksgiving and everything else like that. So with that being said, what I'm going to end up doing is we're going to go through the disclaimer real quick, and then after that, we're going to end up talking about everything that we end up doing, like always. But look how I get started from there. I'm not a CTA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or to sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education, and from the education, you can be able to make your own informed decisions.
It's a poop on you.
Understand that forex trading involves risk. It involves risk of being able to make money. It also involves risk of being able to lose money. So please keep that in mind. And understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you can end up making money today. So with that being said, I'm going to end up liking myself just because I do. And hopefully you end up doing that as well, if I end up providing value for you or anything else like that. Please make sure that you end up liking, sharing, subscribing. Obviously, to the people that you may end up thinking that this may end up having some type of value, or may end up driving some type of value when it comes down to that. And also, please make sure that you end up joining our Discord. Our Discord and everything else is inside of our description. If you end up taking a look at that, clicking on the links, you can be able to get sent to there and be able to get more information as well as talking about the FX Skywalker EA, in which we end up getting into, because most of these trades that we end up taking earlier today actually end up coming from the Skywalker EA and the Skywalker Max, which is still in beta. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get into it. From an economic calendar standpoint, this is what we end up seeing today. We said that it can end up being not much information, but we still have to kind of pay attention to it overall. Where um, let's see, retail sales end up coming out, actually end up being better than expected, but it's still considered to be a negative. Autos actually end up being negative when it came down to their overall sales. We take a look at the interest rate for New Zealand. Actually ended up remaining to be at 4.25. I'm sorry, the previous was 3.5. The consensus that it thought it was going to end up being was a raise up to 75 basis points. And that's exactly what ended up happening. They ended up going to 0.425. So that's where we are right there. Wednesday, keep in mind, the banks and everything else like that are going to end up closing early. So get your trading and everything else done in before 12 o'clock, and make sure that if you have an automation system, I would look at being able to turn it off. Um, I would look at being able to turn it off early when it comes down to that. So either just don't trade it, just don't have anything kind of locked in when it comes down to trades, unless it's an existing trade that you can be able to manually take profit off of, or better yet, just stay away from it and just kind of just keep on moving as the market kind of does this thing, and probably won't be able to see anything until later on that day, or later on Thursday, once all the news and everything else comes out. So there we go. I want to make sure everybody's good on that. Uh, we're gonna start off with yeah. Let's go ahead and start off with this one. Um, we're gonna take a look at US yen first and go ahead and jump into that bag and see what's going on with that. And then after that, obviously, we'll break that down into what's happening with our expert advisors and everything else. So, essentially, what has happened is this. From the last time that we end up seeing this, we're going to start off with the weekly, and then after that, we'll go from everything else. From a weekly perspective, the market ended up falling down, and you're going to see that this inner trend line adjusts a little bit. So I'm going to say it fell down to the inner trend line after being able to make that big move from 151. From there, end up hitting the outer trend line, and then after that, market started to bounce up a little bit as it kind of rebounded right below that 141 area. When the market ended up making this move in 382, which was at 138.42. From a daily perspective, we can see that the market actually ended up falling and remained to be in consolidation. Showed a triangle from that overall move, and then after that popped up to the upside. Now, remember, anytime that there's a breakout to the upside, typically you will end up seeing a retest from that overall move to see if the market is going to end up remaining to be bullish. And from there, essentially what has happened is over the course of the last day and a half, the market has retraced all the way down to the buy zone. It did not fully retrace all the way down to where the actual break was, but this is a big enough push that you could be able to go with that trade and actually be comfortable with it for being able to take it to the upside. Now, here's my only problem. As some of y'all know, I end up trading breakouts by using the vortex strategy. If you're interested in being able to learn a little bit more about that, obviously go to the Discord. We'll talk about what we end up doing for our one-on-one strategies with that. But from a Ikumoku standpoint, Ikumoku breakout standpoint, this market is actually still within the overall cloud of this move. So it's kind of given it from an hourly standpoint, it's showing a big push, but I don't know if that's going to end up just being the start of consolidation if the market continues to move at the way that it does. It may end up getting up here, but I think that it may end up kind of settling off, especially after when the markets actually end up closing on Wednesday. So it may be one of those situations where you might just want to kind of stay away from it, even though that there was a big push up a couple days ago, and we end up making money off of this movement the upside from there. So currently right now, if you're going to end up doing something, you just have to keep in mind that I think that you can look at this as a support and resistance type of play, just because of the timing of what's happening over the course of the next 2 days. So if you're taking entry, let's go ahead and map one up. Buy trade. We'll stop loss will be below the swing low. We'll go ahead and do that. From there, the overall take profit will end up being the overall resistance of what the market end up hitting. So the backside of this trend line. So that price is right around 142.17. So I'm going to say anywhere around 142 probably end up being a good position to be able to exit. And just try to get what you can when it comes down to that position. Let's talk risk reward. Let's talk risk reward on this one. Then after that, we'll close out. So we go from here to there. Let's say 55 pips, 140.86 as a stop loss. Take profit will end up being 75 pips. So that'd be a 1 to 1.25. I don't like that as much. I like to move. You're looking at being able to scalp, go ahead and scalp it that way. Make the stop loss a little bit tighter, but either let this joker keep on playing out and let it go all the way up to the D extension, which is expected to be at 140. Okay, why am I doing? Let's see why I'm looking at that. Oh, okay, middle of consolidation. 143.86. All right, 143.86 would probably end up being a good position. Obviously, you take a look at what's going on with 140 when it came down to that. But for me, I'm gonna stick to my guns on this one. I'm not gonna end up taking it just because it's inside the Ikumoku cloud. But for people that like to, or people that would like to be able to take that opportunity, they've been looking into it. There goes your overall play right there. Okay, good to go. So let's go ahead and go with the United States dollar index, and then after that, we'll kind of jump in and everything goes. Should have talked about the trades that we ended up taking while we was doing that. Ended up having a pretty good day overall, and it really kind of showed. I've seen something. Most people end up seeing that real quick. All right, weekly perspective. Or we did the United States dollar index. We looked at the U.S. Okay, cool, perfect. Let's take a look at U.S. oil. So U.S. oil, as we take a look at it at this point, let's see. We're getting Bitcoin as well. Okay, so going into the weekly, oil has been in a consolidation basically in the middle of it right now with the resistance high of 93.60 and the natural support at 77.11. So I'm going to say 77 for what that overall position. So this in here is your consolidation when it comes down to that point. As the market ended up falling down to 77.11, I believe, on Monday, and then after that, popped right back up, so it solidified that. If you take a look at that from a daily perspective, you can see that we end up having that large indecision candlestick after the market started to be able to push back up and then started to show a little bit of a U-turn. But what that truly solidified is that obviously 77 is the natural support. But now when it comes down to us being able to trade, the closer that you are to the support, the better when it comes down to being able to take a trade like this. Or unlike if you're like me, where either you buy a support, sell a resistance everywhere else, does not matter. This will be one of those everywhere else situations. So oil I'm not going to do anything with, but I do think that if the market falls down to 77 again and it does bounce up, then I'll be interested in being able to trade it back up to at least a halfway point when it came down to that movement. I know for some people I end up placing in a trade, or I just gave out a trade opportunity this morning. I did not take that trade, and I think that was that red, blue, and green line that I was looking at a little bit earlier. But yeah, didn't take that trade on that one. All right, so let's talk about gold. Gold is kind of in the same standpoint. I was trying to get up to 1800. We were looking for a counter trend line break. That counter trend line break never showed up. Take a look at it from a 2-hour perspective. Had a chance, rejected off again. Currently, right now, that's telling us that the market is going to end up falling down a little bit more. Possibly could fall all the way down to 1710 because it has had a 382 retracement. So we'll see how the market kind of reacts based off of that overall movement, at least at this particular point in time. Now, keep in mind, once again, we talk about timing. Today is Tuesday. We got Thanksgiving on Thursday. Which means that the banks are going to end up closing a little bit earlier. Typically, I think last year they ended up closing right around 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And from there, really couldn't do anything with it. So, actually ended up, I remember last year I ended up having a trade that I was in, and I was up about $1,800-$1,900. And then the market shut down, market closed. And I'm like, okay, well, what the heck just happened? Didn't think about it that way. About that the banks end up closing a little bit earlier, or the trading firms end up closing a little bit earlier. So from there, stayed in the trade, looked at it. As soon as I want to say about 8 o'clock, I was watching a Cowboys game, which makes it even worse. As soon as I seen it end up happening, I went from being up 800 to being down like 1100. From that span, just by not being able to get out early, and end up taking a loss on that overall trade just because of the overall gap that ended up happening based off of that move. But I say that to say this: make sure that you end up taking your profit early when it comes down to that. All right, so as we take a look at it, let's go into going to US 30. Or no, let's go back into US yen. We end up taking a buy trade. Then after that, US 30, we end up taking a buy trade and a sell trade. The sell trade kind of hurt us a little bit. The buy trades end up kind of recovering that overall movement. For some reason, I had the bright idea to be able to hedge it, and that ended up catching me. So it'll be something that we have to talk about real quick. Let's see. Okay, perfect. Well, while we got this up, look, I'm going to talk US 30 real quick. So, end up getting into a trade on US 30 because we knew a couple things. One, if we take a look at the Ikomoku cloud, we can see that the market is clearly bullish. We can see that the larger the cloud, the bigger the trend, or the more defined the trend is actually going to end up being in. Also, we end up talking about being able to see if the market can be able to push up to 34,160. 34,160 for the overall push. And that was more the reasons why we end up taking a buy more than anything else. You take a look at it from a 1 hour perspective, you can see that once we end up breaking out of consolidation, we end up having a little bit of room for the overall space because we're going into low volume node territory and being able to see the market kind of push up from there. So once we end up taking that buy, we end up getting in and getting out of a few positions based off of the FX Striker EA. And then after that, it moved up to resistance 3 of the day at 34,120. This was the trades for today. There we go. 36,670, 36,671. Got out at 927, 34,6, and 34,368. Took a couple sales, ended up losing out on breakout sales, and then after that, ended up taking a couple more buys as we end up going through. These were the two bad losses that ended up making this day end up being a great day to a day, if that makes sense. But still ended up clearing over 3,000 when it came down to profit. So it's pretty good when it came down to that. Now let's talk about where we're at because we still got a little bit more room to go. Market has broken out of this overall consolidation area in that trade that we end up getting into and kind of holding on to since the 8th of November when we end up bringing it out. But since that popped to the upside, market has slowly started to be able to give a little bit of a U-turn. But the best thing about it is right now the 15 minutes in the buy zone. So if you end up getting some type of counter trend line break, then you got an opportunity to possibly be able to look at being able to get back in. From an hourly perspective, I don't think that I see the same thing. I think the hourly is a little bit overbought. So yeah, so I'll wait until the hourly ends up getting into the buy zone. From there, once that happens, look for another U-turn and be able to ride it up to 34,210. That may not happen. It may not happen tomorrow. Actually, it may not happen until Thursday, or maybe even later than that, based off of how the market kind of reacts based off that gap. But made money off of the movement to the upside when it broke. We had a sale, and I wanted to be able to see what that looked like. I got into the sale, took profit on one of them, got in again, and then after that, stayed on that trade and got into a position where I couldn't look at it anymore and got stopped out. So buy trades are kind of holding right now, but I'm probably going to end up taking profit at least at the top of this move, and then after that, or that's what I did. Took profit at the top of this move, and then after that, wait to see how the market was going to end up reacting back up to the upside. Okay, so that was the three trades that we ended up taking today. Aside from the last one will be Canadian yen. Let's go ahead and talk about Canadian yen, and we'll go from there. From a Canadian yen standpoint, market is bullish. Has been bullish for a little bit at this particular point. From a weekly perspective, we can see that the market has went through three waves at this particular point. Fell down to an area where consolidation has been kind of the main frames when it comes down to this movement. But the market only retraced to the 382. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because that's an 80-20 rule all day long when it comes down to this overall movement. Now, this happened based off of the weekly. So the market tried to push up and reject it off the 382. Typically, what happens is that the market will end up finding support either to B or at the 382 when the market ends up retracing. So we're still in a position to where we just don't know what's going to happen because of the consolidation. But on the Skywalker Max, what ended up happening was that market ended up breaking above the Ichimoku cloud based off of the hour, and it has given a counter trend line break to be able to get in. So the system took that a little bit more seriously and ended up taking a trade at 105.56 with a take profit of 109.30. So if you're interested in being able to take that move, there's a counter trend line break that's actually happening right now, and the market is still considered to be bullish overall when it comes down to that. So you got another opportunity to be able to make a move. I like this move a little bit better than the previous move that we just talked about, but we'll see how they end up playing out. Okay, so that was the moves today, and what we end up doing is that I'm probably not going to look at being able to trade tomorrow. I will be live, but I don't know if I'm going to be interested in being able to make a strong conviction on any type of move until uh, unless the market ends up proving otherwise, at least at the beginning of the day. And then from there, just make sure that you just kind of manage the market, but know that more than likely it probably won't be a great move to be able to take uh, for any trade unless you're just trying to scout. And keep that in mind. So if you can do that, then you got a better chance of being able to um, have a good day when it comes down to trading. If you like what I end up doing, please make sure that you end up clicking on that like button, click on that share button. And like always, what we end up doing is we end up doing this again, and keep on working, keep on rocking out with it. Join the Discord, join the make sure you join the Discord. Make sure you end up clicking on to um, the overall pages that we have for us, like the Skywalker EA and all of the other things that we end up having from there. And like always, make sure that you end up planning trade your plan. We'll see each and every one of y'all in the next video.